key to podcasting, and let's face it, I mean, I should know as the chief podcast officer around here, CPO, not to be confused with CP3, Chris Paul, or C3PO from Star Wars. Paul Calvisi, Darren Urban, and we'll intro our brand new guest here in a moment. I'm just going to say the key to podcasting is to have a ready-made excuse if it stinks. And right now, these headphones, brand new headphones, fine headphones, but they're different. And they're throwing me a little bit. So there's a new sound in my head. And I know what you're saying, Darren. If only you had a new brain in your head, but I don't. I have a new sound. So
you don't know what I'm thinking, Paul.
If I'm worse than usual, I have a ready-made excuse. So once again, the key to podcasting, as we say, welcome into this free agency edition of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. We know it's a free agency edition because there was just a transaction, and I'm trying to tweet it out, and I can't because I'm giving an intro to this podcast, and now kicking it over to Zach Gershman to take it from here for a moment so I can continue with this award-winning tweet.
Well, thank you, Paul. I will say, though, I'm glad that I was not...
Say it louder, Zach, please.
Gladly. I am very happy to know that I am not the excuse as to why this could potentially go haywire.
That's
so
true.
Thank you. That's where I thought we were going with this.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous. The heart was beating. But now we're all right. Is the tweet posted?
Well, it is multiple choice. I mean, just say there's one excuse would, really be cutting you short of what it, could be the blame game here a little bit later.
It was short. Was that a short joke on Dani's expense because she's not here?
Look, at the end of the day, though, I'm glad that even if we are in multiple reasons, multiple choices, I'm glad I'm still a choice. That's great.
Darren says don't tell him what to think. Don't put those words into my mouth. I'm not making any short jokes about anyone at any point. So let the record reflect that, Dani, and everyone else.
We do miss Dani. She left all week because of her birthday. And I mean that's something to do, I suppose. If you're right in the middle of free agency, free agency
priorities.
Would you take it personal, Zach, if I said that's a really 18 to 34-year-old thing to do?
No,
take a whole week for your birthday?
I'm right in that demographic, so I wouldn't complain. But Darren, does that mean I get my birthday week taken off?
Wow.
Do I have that permission?
Put your vacation time in.
I mean,
you
it's
can
during
take
like
whenever.
week 3 or week 4
do
of the season.
Whatever you got to do.
All right.
I'm going to move on. And by the way, speaking of birthday, there is somebody who is more in our age range that we work with, Paul, that exclaims a birthday month, not just a week.
A month celebration.
It wouldn't take long for you to narrow down the candidates of somebody who would do something like that, but yes.
Okay.
Craig Rielu?
No, not Craig Rielu.
Come on, Craig's a grinder. He's a grinder.
You wouldn't know Craig would ever have a birthday unless
true.
you forced him, waterboarded him or something.
Okay, so here we go. I just look. You can take a look at the Cardinals free agent class, and when it comes to splash signings, I think the Cardinals can legitimately go Ron Burgundy and Anchorman and say the following: Cannonball! Was there a bigger name in free agency than Josh Sweat? I put it to you, Darren Urban.
Are you trying to troll the fans now?
Not at all. I'm not in the mailbag. I don't have access to the mailbag.
I understand that, but I think there's absolutely, with all due respect to your point, I think it was a splash signing. Absolutely, was Josh Sweat reportedly coming to the Cardinals, feeling pretty good about that coming to fruition when it sometime, but. I think there's a good section of the Cardinals fans that had a different splash signing in mind that it didn't quite occur. I'm sure you were watching that in real time. Were you not, Paul?
A little bit. Maybe this is where I kick it to Zach. Zach, would you like to add to that at all?
Look, I will say Milton Williams, while he was probably the splash signing that I think Darren's alluding to, it was
not probably. That is the one.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to put words in your mouth. We've already gotten that point across.
That's what we do here on this podcast.
All right. Now I'm going to put words in Darren's mouth and know that they are confirmed. That it is the case. Look, Milton Williams is a player that a lot of fans were hoping that the Cardinals were going to sign, but they were still in that sweepstakes. And the money that New England reportedly is sending his direction, that's a tough deal to beat out.
Okay. Honestly, I did not see a lot of this supposed alleged blowback.
Oh, really?
No, I did not.
Ooh.
So let me get this straight.
That's why we have to refresh Twitter a little bit more.
Paul's a busy man. I can understand this.
What's a bigger need or want than edge rusher on this roster? You drafted Darius Robinson last year. He was never 100%. You signed Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols. This draft is deep with 3 E's, deep in defensive tackles. Why would you value Milton Williams over Josh Sweat?
I'm not necessarily saying I would value him more. I believe that Josh Sweat is the splash signing of free agency, and not just because the Cardinals were able to ink that deal, but because of what he was able to do under Jonathan Gannon during his time in Philadelphia. But I think people wanted that young guy over there in the interior defensive line. I mean, look, it always starts in the interior and then it goes to the outside. So I think that's probably the reason why. But the draft class is loaded, and a lot of experts that when you guys were in Indy, Darren, were talking about how deep and how loaded this draft class is.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised. And Paul, I'm sure, well, I don't know if you're sure. I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Cardinals were trying to get both of them. And they got one and they just didn't get the other one. I guess it's possible. You said we're going to spend on one. We'll see which one filters out. But they had the wherewithal to be able to get two of them if that's what they wanted. Now, I don't know that. I don't know that for a fact. And I understand what you're saying, and I think you can go either way with this. And, you know, you talk about bringing back Nichols, you talk about bringing back Justin Jones, you talk about having Darius Robinson, who just talked about how last year was basically his redshirt year, and he was never healthy. They just agreed to terms with LJ Collier literally as we were starting this thing.
That's the tweet I'm trying to send out.
There you go.
Anyway.
So, I mean, I think what everybody remembers, and it's funny we say this because Josh Sweat had an excellent Super Bowl, but what everybody remembers from that Super Bowl is that defensive line absolutely obliterating the other team. And really, if you look where the league is going right now, and listening to Jonathan Gannon and Amani Osifort talk trench, I think interior offensive and interior defensive line is something that the fans are very cognizant of right now.
And I'm not minimizing the value of a 3 technique. There's nothing more destructive to an offense. I mean, just look at the 2 games against Seattle and Big Cat Leonard Williams and what he did. So I get it, but to reset the market virtually at that position for that player, when didn't a lot of the analytics say that he barely got double teamed because of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis? So guess what? If you're that guy at that salary and you're getting plugged in, you will be double teamed with frequency. So there's the unproven element of that as well. I'm not quite buying that. And to me, Josh Sweat is well bought.
Yeah.
$41 million guaranteed, reportedly. So, all right. I mean, in today's pass rush world, where Myles Garrett is getting $40 a year, and what Max Crosby is getting paid now by the Raiders, that's what the Dallas Cowboys are going to be on our power poll of ineptitude that we'll have a little bit later.
Very excited for that, Paul. Zach doesn't really know about that.
I watch Underground. I put it on my big screen TV. I get to watch your beautiful faces in the luxury of my home. I mean, this is fantastic.
And he mingles with the people, talking to people who apparently also listen to Underground, right?
I do. We are not going to talk about my American Airlines flight experience on this podcast.
Okay.
But just so you know, I know you're watching, and I'm appreciative of you.
Once again,
shouldn't Paul be looking into the camera saying that?
Paul, would you do me the honor of saying to my guest that it is fun to sit in the middle seat?
I will say, forget that. What I'm going to say is, as his defense lawyer right now, Zach was wronged. Anytime you're not allowed the seat rest, the arm rest, you've been wronged, and that is you should pay more or less for your seat based on whether you have the armrest or not. So we're going to have the power poll of ineptitude a little bit later. And because Zach mingles with the people, according to Darren, you're going to give us getting cultured a little bit later. You're pinch hitting for Dani a little bit later. Okay.
Yeah, she gave me the honor of doing it, so we'll be ready to go.
While she's off celebrating her birthday.
I see. Winning behavior is coming our way as well. But let's just get into the whole free agency right now. As first off, the whole legal tampering thing, right? I always just find amusing just the absolute terminology of it all. Did you know that there are 6 Purge movies? Because it sort of reminds me when you hear when you hear legal tampering. To me, I think of the 24-hour Purge. And there are 5 movies, Zach, as you should know: The Purge, Purge Anarchy, Purge Election Year, First Purge, Forever Purge, and then there's the 6th Purge movie that's being shot as we speak, Big Red Purge, Roster Reconstruction, which leads us here into the offseason 2025. And what we started with, the splash signing to Josh Sweat. So if you guys are done griping and grousing about Milton Williams, can I get a comment on Josh Sweat?
Josh Sweat is a baller. He's a really good run defender, so that's something that the Cardinals are definitely going to need to take advantage of and utilize. But what I keep going back to...
He is, right? He is a 3-down defender.
Yeah, and in Philadelphia, similar to how Darius Robinson was in college, they had the ability for him to stand up and rush the passer, but he also had his hand in the dirt. That was something that Josh Sweat did a lot in Philadelphia, is he had the ability to have his hand in the dirt. But when you have guys like Mill Williams, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, the defensive front that the Philadelphia Eagles had, Brandon Graham especially, the Michigan product. Go blue? Question mark?
No, Darren, no, he's not ready for that.
What I do know is that they had the ability to punch him there to the outside, and that is something that when he was in Philadelphia, Josh Sweat was a Pro Bowler under Jonathan Gannon. 2021, there was an injury which was allowed him to slide into the Pro Bowl. I'm very happy with having a Pro Bowl pass rusher in the mix here.
By the way, I don't count that as a Pro Bowl. When you're an injury replacement or some guy bows out of the Pro Bowl. Now, I'm not going to tell Josh Sweat that to his face.
Don't worry. When I speak with him, I will tell you on his behalf.
But okay, look.
He also watches Cardinals Underground.
Yes.
He turns 28 later this month. Okay, so he's in his prime. That's legit. Averaging $19 million a year or so, if you want to break it down. On one hand, for free agency, that's reasonable and rational in 2025. Then again, he's top 12 in terms of his position group, so he is highly compensated. There's no doubt. 33 sacks the last 4 years, just one double-digit sack season, 11 in 2022, but that was the ridiculous 70 sack season by the Eagles in Gannon's final year when they lost in the Super Bowl 57 at State Farm Stadium. So, I mean, what's not to like in this one? And now if you hit to the position room, okay, so you got Josh Sweat, you got Baron Browning.
Who's coming back now, obviously.
And then you have B.J. Ojulari, total unknown at this point. And then Xavier Thomas. Okay, so let's see. Who's the one guy I didn't name? Who's the one guy? Zaven Collins. Does this lead you to believe, is there further fuel to the fire that I guess we've ignited here?
We've ignited. Paul has ignited.
Zaven Collins back to inside linebacker. Anybody with me? Are you coming around to this now after this wave of moves? Anyone? Guess not. Okay?
Those are crickets you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So,
Cody, you can go ahead and put those in later.
So with that in mind, are the Cardinals set at linebacker minus Kaiser White, who could still be in the mix? Maybe the Cardinals just waiting for his price to come down. Maybe. Don't know. But they went out and got Akeem Davis-Gaither and, as of today, reportedly, Michael Walker out of Washington, formerly of Atlanta. So can I get a comment on these two linebackers and what fans need to know?
For both of these players, they were mostly rotational pieces at their respective teams. I know that the Bengals, on their bio, they had for Akeem Davis-Gaither, they had him as enlisted as a core special teamer. So that is something that we know how much this Cardinals team values special teams, especially with special teams coordinator Jeff Rodgers. These are guys that are able to be versatile and play special teams, but also fill in the need. Now, how much will it be in terms of if they take over as the green dot? Because we know that Mack Wilson Sr. is going to be coming off the edge. I'm not so sure.
Whoa. We don't know that Mack Wilson's coming off the edge.
Well, we've seen him throughout the 2024 season, and we know that they like his versatility to come off the edge.
I would think it would be both.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, was that out of necessity? And if that's no longer needed, could Mack Wilson Sr. be your new Mike linebacker?
I think that's possible. And I think the other thing you need to understand as you're looking at this is, one, I do think they enjoy Mack Wilson's versatility. So I don't think that – I think they'll continue to move him around. We know what Nick Rollis likes to do with that stuff. The other thing, too, is like you look at a guy like Akeem Davis-Gaither, and his numbers aren't eye-popping by any stretch of the imagination, but neither were Mack Wilson's before he got here. And the whole point was we saw something on tape that we like that maybe nobody else has exploited as much as we're going to. And who knows, maybe that's what they're seeing with who I'm going to say is ADG, because I just don't want to have to say that whole name all the time.
Well, there are some parallels, right? In that Mack Wilson Sr. at the end of 23 all of a sudden was thrust into a pass rushing role off the edge because of injury. He went to Belichick and said, hey, coach, give me a shot, put me in the game. And then he flashed over the last 4, 5, 6 games to the point where the Cardinals looked at the film and they said, wait a minute, there's upside here off the edge. He's more than just a core special teamer or a backup inside linebacker. That's almost the exact same situation Akeem Davis-Gaither was in with the Bengals, where he got 6 starts at the end of the year and was really productive. And he showed some real athleticism. So, okay, you know what? That's what this is all about. Buy low, sell high, try and project based on the film. And if a guy wasn't able to show his entire skill set and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of film that might say otherwise, why not? Invest and see what happens.
Akeem jumped in for Logan Wilson when he went down with the injury, and I think that could be a great sample size, similar to what we were just talking about with Mack Wilson Sr. The numbers don't flash. I guess my point from what I was saying earlier is that it is assuring to know, especially with linebacker Chris Barnes, who is right now a free agent. You don't know if you're going to be bringing him back or not into the mix with the Arizona Cardinals. He was a big key contributor on special teams. At least we know from the tape that we've seen that for both Micah Walker and for ADG, they have that special teams ability.
All right. And then how about Baron Browning? So he signs, right? Am I usurping what you're getting into Baron Browning a little bit later, Darren? Are you getting into that a little bit later? Should I not get into that now?
I was going to save that for the winning behavior, to be honest.
Okay, we'll get into that a little bit later on that front. All right, so let's talk offense right now. You know the old cliche, maybe the second most important player on any football team is the backup quarterback. QB2, Jacoby Brissett.
That's true.
Decade in the league. He has a past with, count him down, Darren. He has a past with how many different decision makers?
Well, Monty Ossenfort was the director of college scouting for the Patriots when the Patriots drafted Jacoby Brissett.
Ding.
And then Jonathan Gannon was on the Colts staff for 3 years while Brissett was a Colts quarterback.
A starter at one point, ding.
And then Drew Petzing was the quarterback's coach for the Browns the 1 year that he played in Cleveland and started a handful of games there too. 11 of them, right?
Yeah. So, okay.
And Israel Wolfork was on that staff too, who's now the quarterback's coach for the Cardinals.
There you go. Now, he started the first 5 games last year for New England. Let's just say the New England offense was not productive. I'm also going to say when the Patriots visited late in the season, Week 15 at State Farm Stadium, you took a look at that team and that roster and you said, other than Christian Gonzalez and Drake May, they don't have a single dude on this team. This is the most talent-bereft team I've seen in a long time. I mean, there's a reason why they spent through the nose in free agency, New England. And so, okay.
And they have spent a ton.
Yes, they have.
And they got Milton Williams.
But he did.
Why you got to go there, Zach?
No, I just wanted to bring it back.
No, I know you just wanted to bring it back. But if you don't start learning the cadence of this podcast.
I just want to remind people.
Stepping on Paul Calvisi.
Want to make sure that they're coming back to this.
You know what? That brings us...
Chief Podcast Officer Paul Calvisi.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to make an executive decision right now. We're going to transition to the hardware that we like to give out every offseason. Don't know if you're familiar with this, Zach, but for about 10 years now, basically ever since he said the words, we've been giving out the Rex Ryan Award, and it's because of this quote.
We've won the offseason. I would challenge any team. I think we've won the offseason.
So, wait. Is he tapping the microphone like you do? What is that about?
I think he was. Yeah, you know, he's fond of doing the whole, is this thing on? Oh, it's going to be like so on. You know, Rex Ryan.
I think you need to trademark that, Paul.
Never a microphone that he's never welcomed. So there he was in the offseason as the Bills head coach before they eventually won 5 games, and he was terminated. But we hand out the offseason hardware every year for winning the offseason. I had New England number 1 initially. Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, the Pasternaut, of course, Josh Dobbs, you know. But then along came Minnesota with a serious checkbook, writing big money to Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Will Fries, Byron Murphy, Aaron Jones, and then they got their center from Indianapolis as well, right next to Will Fries, Ryan Kelly. So,
and who's playing quarterback?
Unless I'm missing someone, Minnesota right now.
They lost Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. Who's playing quarterback again?
That would be J.J. McCarthy.
Okay. We'll see.
Unless, as of this recording, Aaron Rodgers has not signed with the Vikings.
I did like the Will Fries signing, although it's for a lot of money, and I did see that Seattle really wanted him, but they wanted him to come in and get his leg checked because he had a serious injury.
Oh.
And he was like, "No, I can't come in and get checked before Wednesday, and I want to have it decided by then." So basically, they were out because they weren't going to spend that kind of money on a guy they weren't sure about.
Tough deal for Seattle. That janky offensive line in Seattle, they just can't get it right, the Seahawks, with that offensive line. That's a tough break.
What were you thinking, Paul, when you saw the notification that Geno Smith got traded to Vegas?
Not surprised.
Hey, wait. Are we doing the NFC West now? Is that what we're doing?
Do you want to do that?
We can jump right into that because there is a hell of a lot of stuff going on.
Okay. All right. Who's going to – it sounds like you want to take the steering wheel on this, Darren. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we can talk about Devontae Adams going to the Rams as they cut Cooper Kupp. Now, we've talked about cutting Cooper Kupp, but Devontae Adams, not bad. Seattle loses Geno Smith. They trade him away. They lose DK Metcalf, trade him away. They get rid of Tyler Lockett. Sam Darnold is the Seahawks quarterback. The 49ers don't have anybody anymore, especially on their defense. I shouldn't say they don't have anybody, but they've lost a lot of defensive
You know
players.
what? The Niners could be the 7th Purge movie at this point.
Oh.
Yeah, they really could. Yeah.
Let me tell you something, Zach. I know you watch this all the time, but when Paul starts putting people in the Purge segment, I mean, that's high praise.
And not in the list of ineptitude either.
No, it's got to be significant. And the Niners' bloodletting is significant right now. In fact, can I make a...
They couldn't even get Joey Bosa to come over to play with Nick.
Can I make a sawed-off comment right now? The Niners' success over the last decade, the roster building, the talent acquisition, how much of that was Adam Peters?
Okay.
If I'm Jed York, the owner, I'm wondering, wow, did I keep the wrong decision maker?
Here's what I'm going to say to that. The 49ers team have had a nice run, and what's happening to the 49ers is exactly what happens to teams. They get really good, and then you got to make some decisions. The difference between the 49ers and, let's say, the Chiefs is that Brock Purdy was about to get paid, and one of the reasons they're having to make all these moves is he close enough to Patrick Mahomes to keep you afloat. The Chiefs are going through the same stuff. They lose guys. They're losing guys every year, but they've made it work. I don't think this is a John Lynch thing. I think this is the pain of getting good, having a lot of good players, and then eventually you can't pay them all.
And it's true. And nothing erases inefficiencies and weaknesses like an elite quarterback. And obviously Mahomes has done that for a long time. But the Niners, I mean, Aaron Banks got paid big money by Green Bay. He left, so there's a big hole in the middle of their offensive line. Charvarius Ward, that dude is a dog and a really good tackler and an excellent cover guy. He's gone to the Colts. 2 years ago, they had an all-pro safety, Talanoa Hufanga, and he went to the Broncos. Dre Greenlaw, you talk about a dog who was the pulse of that. If there's one thing we've learned, Fred Warner cannot cover Trey McBride. The only dude that really could was Dre Greenlaw that I've seen the last 2-3 years. The only linebacker who could keep up with Trey McBride was Dre Greenlaw. And then, they lost a bunch of other guys as well. But, yeah, the last place 49ers are going to start this year in last place. Put it that way.
It's a credit to I think you obviously have your core pieces still. Like they are putting all their chips in on keeping guys like George Kittle, like Fred Warner, like Brock Purdy, because they want their key people to be happy. I was surprised to see Kyle Juszczyk, though, get released by the team.
He had to take that pay cut. He had to take a haircut last year. He wasn't happy about that. So, yeah, maybe his role or his age, he was getting downsized and phased out in that offense.
I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating that, trading Geno Smith for Sam Darnold, which to me, it's essentially the same player. In fact, you could make the argument Geno's better. But if Geno was looking for $10 million more a year and they knew Sam Darnold would take $10 million, the deal that they were willing to give Geno Smith, I guess that makes sense. And then with the Rams, I like what the Rams are doing.
By the way, can I just make a comment on the Seahawks?
Well, it's the podcast, Paul. You can make lots of comments.
You are the CPO.
This might be highly. Yeah, the O stands for opinionated. I know this, but that janky offensive line by Seattle was saved by Geno Smith's athleticism and mobility and escapability. You're putting Sam
is
Darnold
true.
behind that O-line?
Well, you never know.
I'm just good luck with that. But yeah, the Rams. The only thing I don't figure out on the Rams is they gave Tutu Atwell $10 million guaranteed. It's a one-year deal.
That's what happens when you draft the hell out of things and your defense is so young that nobody's making any money.
I guess. I mean, he's had
because it's a 1-year deal.
4 touchdowns in 4 years, and he got $10 million.
So it's off the books next year. They have a speed receiver, and people looking for speed receivers in free agency, there weren't that many. And they got paid a lot more than $10 million.
The one bit of Cardinals fan blowback that I've seen was you paid Zay Jones $4+ million.
You're not looking.
You couldn't pay Roy Lopez $4+ million. Well, it's two totally different pay scales for the position groups.
And I would also say that what we're seeing is what the agent wants out there. My guess is in both cases, that's the maximum those guys could have gotten.
Gotcha.
And let's find out what the actual money is going to be. Even the Milton Williams stuff that came out originally, I saw something, I think at one point they said it was over 100 million or whatever it was. And I saw the breakdown, and it's basically, in real terms, it's basically a 2-year, $50 million contract. And Milton Williams has got like over $8 million in per game roster bonuses. So if you get a hamstring and miss 3 games, that's like $300,000 this year.
Interesting. Okay.
So the real numbers aren't always what they seem.
What is Seattle doing at receiver, by the way? They got a 2nd-round pick for DK Metcalf.
Cooper Kupp.
They got a 3rd-round pick for Geno Smith. And then Tyler Lockett was shown the door. He gone. 2nd all-time leading receiver. By the way, I'm not on board with people who want Tyler Lockett. He definitely showed his age last year, I thought. He didn't have the ability to separate.
Cooper Kupp's done the same thing.
Yeah. If you're Cooper Kupp, though, free piece of advice, go to a team with natural grass. The Cardinals are one of 14 teams with natural grass fields. Cooper Kupp, get off the turf. You're too fragile at this point.
Speaking of that, and again, I know I keep sidewinding into this every week now, but again, watching some old late 1970s NFL games.
Oh, Darren.
Darren
needs a side hustle.
Steelers at
this
Oilers.
This is a new segment already.
Steelers at Oilers and the Astrodome, and like the Steelers defense and a really good Oilers defense and Earl Campbell. And literally, I'm watching like every play. These guys are taking like 10 years to get up because they're falling on that old school AstroTurf. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like cringing looking at them getting tackled onto that horrible asphalt type turf. Sorry.
Zach, can I get a comment on Darren watching old NFL games from the late 70s on YouTube?
Well, it's funny because we were actually talking about games earlier today because we were talking about kickers' ability to kick for longer than 50-plus yards and how back then a 25-yard kick seemed like it was really challenging.
They were talking about the Steelers kicker, and he was coming out for a 42-yard field goal, and the guy, the announcer's like, they could have taken the Oilers could have taken that 10-yard penalty, but Jarrell is only 3 for 8 from 40 to 49 yards this year, so...
You know what? This seems like a good segue to me to kick it to Zach because, Darren right now, he needs a dose of culture in somehow, some way. So why don't you say Zach will pinch hit? Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, what do you got
Here
for
we
us,
go.
Zach?
I thought you were going to, like LFG, like the kids say, something like that. No, you weren't going to go that route?
I just to say the let's go.
Okay.
The F,
yeah.
that's for, no.
Okay.
I will say this, though.
Dude, have we had enough beeps in this podcast?
Yeah, that's Darren's department.
That was a mental note
Yeah.
for me. I'm like, this guy really had a couple of beeps throughout Underground. So let's make sure that we leave it to just those few. Look, I got permission from Dani to do this segment. I needed the Queen's blessing.
No, you didn't.
So
go ahead.
Well, I will say I still got the Queen's blessing.
Okay.
And I will start talking about things that will absolutely bless you guys. I know you guys are big fans of the Big Baller family. LeVar, D'Angelo, Lonzo, LaMelo.
Yeah.
You guys
Are
know
they still
that.
around?
Are they still around? Boy, are they still around.
I mean,
this is the biggest week for that entire family. Paul, what's that face reaction?
Why is this the biggest week for
I'll
that
tell you,
family?
The Hornets aren't making the playoffs. The Bulls aren't making the playoffs.
Who said about the playoffs? This is just a matter of that all three of them are actually going to all be in action this weekend. So this weekend, we have Lonzo and his Bulls are playing the Rockets. LaMelo and the Hornets are playing in LA against the Clippers. LiAngelo Ball is performing at Rolling Loud. Jello is headlining his first festival. He's going to be performing on Saturday. He's got 3 like big time songs, and I think there are only 3 songs that he has. But one of them was like the rallying cry for the Detroit Lions before they got smacked against the Washington Commanders in the playoffs. That song's called Tweaker. And then you have here, what's the other song? I have it written down. Can You Please is song number 2, and Law and Order is song number 3. So Paul,
I watch
the Ball brothers.
I watch Law and Order all the time.
Okay, so I'm glad you clarified because I'm like, wait a minute, LiAngelo Ball somehow made it into the league. So okay, no, he's in the music industry. Okay, is he an actual performer / artist or is he a DJ?
No, he's a performer / artist. He sings, he raps.
I'm surprised you don't know. I actually knew this.
Okay,
you knew about the Rolling Loud?
No, but I knew about LiAngelo Ball having one song and apparently turning one song into now he's Drake or something.
Yeah, well, we've already had that conversation of Dani has controlled that element of getting culture.
That's true.
The old man's name is LeVar Ball, right?
Yes.
Okay, and didn't he have the Big Baller brand?
Big baller, baby.
Didn't he have his foot amputated?
He did have his foot amputated.
Boy. Okay,
and he
that's
did a
too bad.
video
Now you're
saying,
getting culture.
He did a video actually saying that he could still beat MJ with just one foot.
Okay. But here's where I'm going with this. And this could be an late entry into the power pole of incompetence. Wasn't he offered an ungodly amount at one point at the height of his popularity for the Big Baller brand, and he declined to sell?
Yeah.
And now it's sort of like a .com stock, which you don't remember some 25 years ago. You should have sold high because now it's worth nothing.
I don't want to tell Paul I don't remember because I wasn't even alive 25 years ago.
Okay, here we go.
All right, the next aspect.
Had to go there, didn't you, Paul?
We all had to go there.
Coming from the guy who bought Webvan. Go ahead, Zach.
The MLB is currently under fire right now. They tried getting to the fashion game with New Era, and they did a hat style where the background of the hat is the team's name written out in script, and then they put the primary logo in front of it. And let's just say some of these hats don't make sense. Like for the Diamondbacks, they have Arizona written out in the back and then the A in the front. So it says Ariana on it. The Detroit Tigers, they have the D and then Detroit in the background. So it goes D-Do It. The Phillies are Pie Pies. And Boston's the Bobons. Texas.
Wait, Boban, is he still in the league?
I don't know, but Boban Marjanovic, what a guy. And then Texas, their hat, if you translate it to Spanish, it translates to something that can't be discussed over the airwaves. Okay. So New Era has pulled that hat down.
So this wasn't like a typo. This was by design.
No, this is design. It was an overlap design.
They thought they were going to be ultra innovative, reinvent the whole hat genre, and it flopped.
This is why you need Surf on these kinds of places.
Right.
Surf needs to be able to say what he needs to say.
That's right.
And
our boss Surf.
And the very last one, because I want to tie it back into football a little bit, it's free agency related. The Houston Texans, we talk about the winners of the offseason. They might actually be the biggest winner of the offseason.
The Rex Ryan Award.
Essentially, because they signed Braxton Berrios, a wide receiver from the Miami Dolphins, to a 1-year, $2 million deal. And I see you're shaking your head. Why is that the case? He's coming off an injury. Because his girlfriend, Alex Earl, was the Taylor Swift effect before Taylor Swift came into the NFL. Over 11 million followers on social media. She is somebody that a lot of girls look up to.
Never heard of her.
Well, that's what getting culture is for, Darren.
Oh, that's true.
And I will tell you this. While it's interesting that he ends up in Houston, because out of all the teams, Alex Earl has made multiple videos with her boyfriend, Braxton, dating back to last year, where he does a yeehaw, and everybody has been saying, you need to belong in Texas. Well, now he's a Houston Texan. And on top of that, who's his quarterback, Paul, when he goes to the Houston Texans?
C.J. Stroud.
Guess who was on stage to announce C.J. Stroud as the Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Alex Len?
Michael Parsons, and Alex Earl.
Oh, Alex Earl. Sorry. I knew it was Alex something.
So is there anything nefarious about that signing? Meaning, would the team say, you know what, it's only $2 million for the player, but we really covet his girlfriend or significant other, and she's going to add a lot more than $2 million in overall value to our brand?
You might be saying it, and I might be agreeing with it. I'm not sure if they are going to openly admit that, but you know what, Paul?
Okay.
You've been cultured. Darren, you've also been cultured.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So much. That was a solid job, Zach.
Thank you.
We may or may not have you back on the podcast.
All right.
I thought I fared a little better than Darren for once on the whole getting cultured. Maybe.
Maybe.
Just maybe. A little bit.
I've never heard of Alex Len. Or no, Alex Laney. What was
Alex
it?
Earl.
Alex Earl.
She spells it Alix, by the way.
What are your power rankings for the NFC West right now, Paul?
Oh, that's easy. You got to go Rams. Rams 1, Niners in last. So now the only discussion is 2 and 3. And
how do you not put the Cardinals above the Seahawks right now?
Well, okay.
As constituted.
See, until a week ago, I did have the Seahawks ahead of the Cardinals for one reason and one reason only, because Geno Smith was 6-0 against the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's fair.
But now he gone.
By the way, I thought of you because I think you said that at some point, and Geno Smith got traded, and some of the Seahawk fans were thrilled because his record against the 49ers is like 2-5.
Okay.
So like finally we're getting rid of the guy who can't beat the 49ers.
Right.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, let's see what happens when the Cardinals start beating your rear.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so the Seahawks have no receivers other than JSN, and he's really good, and I understand why they're hanging on to him, and he's going to be really good. There's no doubt about it. He's a problem, but they want to run the football. And they canned Ryan Grubb because they want to run the football, and somehow they ended up 28th or 29th in the league in rushing attempts or overall rushing efficiency or whatever, even though they gave Ryan Grubb a midseason mandate, run the dang ball, and he didn't do it. So apparently Mike Macdonald is all in on running the ball because he doesn't have any receivers and apparently doesn't really care at this point.
I guess at that rate, you're forced to run the ball, or you're just forced to
Right.
constantly target JSN up the middle,
Yeah.
because that is what he was able to do, being in that slot, doing those crossing routes. That was how he was able to make his money, for a lack of a better term. And I do think it's interesting, though, because we talk about wide receivers and the need to block. DK Metcalf was a great blocking wide receiver, and now you do not have that out there.
That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. I'm curious.
Clip it, please. Thank you.
Ah, Jesus. Anyways, I think it's interesting that, that the Seahawks and the Cardinals are going to have this like super run heavy kind of feel to them,
Yep.
or at least want to. It was also funny watching social media in real time, JSN and one or two of their defensive players on Twitter as all these moves are happening. As Lockett gets released, then the trade request comes in with Metcalf, and Geno gets traded, and they're all like, what's going on?
See, I never sweated DK Metcalf as a threat. Like, JSN made me a lot more nervous last year than DK Metcalf ever did. The most notable, memorable thing DK Metcalf ever did against the Cardinals was hawk Buda Baker. Honestly.
That's true. It's funny you bring something like that up. I was talking to Grillo earlier, and he was talking about how good it was that the Rams are moving off Cooper Kupp. And I'm like, Cooper Kupp hasn't done anything against the Cardinals in a while. It's been Puka or tight ends.
Yeah.
And we looked it up.
Tyler
and really, Cooper Kupp hasn't really dominated the Cardinals since like 21.
Yeah, which was his Triple Crown year,
Yeah.
21. So, see, that's like the Steelers give up a second-round pick for DK Metcalf, and they pay top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
See, to me, that's a mistake. It's one or the other. Like, the Cardinals went out and they paid good money for Josh Sweat, but they didn't give up any assets. I just think that is a mistake when you're doing both, for the most part, unless you're a player or two away. And there's no doubt, in my mind, the Cardinals have transitioned from quantity to quality. I think the first 2 years, it was about quantity. It was a rookie class that led the NFL in rookie starts, rookie snaps. Then you followed it up with a dozen draft picks in last year's draft class. I'm not even including all the undrafted free agents who have made this team and made a difference. Amari DiMercato, Starling Thomas, Elijah Higgins. So Cardinals are now at the point where it's quality versus quantity, I think. So they go out, they spend the money for a Josh Sweat. We'll see if there's a few other precise maneuvers and signings. I mean, is there a guard out there? Is there a legit starting guard still out there? Yeah, there's a Kevin Zeitler out there. There's a Tevin Jenkins. There's a couple of guys who maybe when the price comes down might be a fit. We'll see. And maybe Will Hernandez, obviously. You got to figure is still on the radar. But in an ideal world, if I'm the Cardinals trying to improve on last year, Evan Brown and Kelvin Beachum are backups. And you either have a first-round rookie, Tyler Booker, who's your starting left guard, and you put him next to Paris Johnson Jr. for the next decade, or you go out and you get a guy who you can plug and play, one of those guys I just named, a veteran who you're paying pretty good money. You bring back Will Hernandez. I just think when you're looking at this division in particular, Big Cat Williams from Seattle and what he did, Niners always feature and value interior defensive linemen. What the Rams have now in that defensive front, I think a mandate for the Cardinals in the offseason, try and improve the 2 guard positions going into 25.
I will be fascinated to see where this plays out. As we record this, the new league year just started like 3 hours ago. Yes, there's been talk since Monday, so we've been going for a while now. I get it. And I get the people waiting for X, Y, and Z in terms of free agent signing. But I am curious to see how they look at that, how they if they go after one of these last few decent guards on the market, because now they're starting to come off the list a little bit.
So do you guys view it as a need or a want? Because it's one or the other. In free agency, there are needs and there are wants. O-line right now, interior O-line, need or want?
I think the way Jonathan Gannon talks, the way Monty Ossenfort talks, I see it as a need.
I see it as a want. I think because you just re-signed Evan Brown, and you already know, or you're hoping to see that year 1 to year 2 jump from Isaiah Adams in the interior guard position. If you're able to get an offensive lineman through free agency, right now when you're looking at the list of guards that are available, as of this recording, Tevin Jenkins is available. Kevin Zeitler just got signed to a team. So the crop is thin. We don't want, if you're Monty Ossenfort, we talk about not wanting to overpay. You don't want to potentially overpay and pigeonhole yourself for a guard that isn't at the caliber that because you already know what you're getting out of Evan Brown. They saw it throughout the season, and it was good enough that they wanted to bring him back.
So for me, here's how I look at that. One, almost all of free agency is overpay. That's the whole point of it, because teams are getting rid of these guys. They don't want to keep them. So you're overpaying because of the open market until we get another couple of weeks out. And then you might be able to get somebody on the cheap. But I don't think you're going to get somebody. The question becomes, this is what you're measuring. You're measuring who you can get. You're measuring how much it's going to cost to get them. And then you have to measure that against who you have. Like you were mentioning Evan Brown. I agree that you want to upgrade, and you know, in a perfect world, Evan Brown could be your top backup perhaps. However, if you've looked at the tape and such is only a tad bit better than Evan Brown, but he's looking to get 3 or 4 times the contract, I'm sorry. I'm sticking with Evan Brown.
The sleeper there is Isaiah Adams. That's the sleeper. We've all talked to coaches who, the last 2 to 4 games of the year, he made improvements. He really evolved. He did ascend. He did actually get comfortable and got more effective. Now he just needs to get stronger, needs to go a little heavier.
The thing about Isaiah Adams, and it's what you said, which is you hope Isaiah Adams is. It reminds me, let's take the Wayback Machine, Paul.
The cold tub time machine.
Back to 2015.
Okay.
When they were going to have Ted Larson be their center.
Yep.
I think it was Ted Larson.
Yeah. Great name. Love it.
They lasted 2 weeks of training camp. And they're like, oh, we got to go get Lyle Sendline back.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we wanted to move on from Lyle Sendline. We thought he was past his prime. We wanted to save some money. And then they realized, oh, that was stupid. We don't have a center. And then you're having to go back. And that's what they don't want to do. Like when I hear Monty Ossenfort at the scouting combine say, in terms of the draft, we want to come out of free agency knowing we could go on the field that day and play a game before the draft, and then we can draft however we need. Do they feel comfortable being able to go play a game, hoping for Isaiah Adams? And again, I'm not saying Isaiah Adams won't be that guy. For all we know, he's going to come back and we're going to be like, holy crap.
Well, maybe it's us hoping, but they know. Maybe they're, based on the film they saw and the progress he's made in the weight room, maybe they're a lot more certain than we are.
I 100% agree. I mean, we saw it towards the back end of the season. He did a really solid job out there, and the staff was very complimentary of that being the case anyway. So I do think that he talked about how he was going to go back home. He was right away going to start training. He was one of the players we spoke to during locker room cleanout, and he was very excited about knowing that it's not a matter of what team is going to draft me, that anxiety of being a draft prospect going to the NFL. Now he's a pro, and he knows he's capable of doing it. He's celebrated with a lot of his teammates in the end zones on rushes that he contributed with. I expect to see that jump.
You know what he needs? He needs a Zach Allen offseason. Remember that offseason?
Yeah.
His first to second year? He left at 285, came back a legit 300.
And it could happen.
So, that would be considered winning behavior. Speaking of, here we go.
I see you on the show!
Can you display winning behavior? You have to consistently display winning behavior.
That's winning behavior.
You got to define what winning behavior is and hold people to that standard.
Yes.
Paulie, before we get started, I don't mean to step on you.
Oh, boy.
But we had some winning behavior today.
Oh, today?
In
real time.
I am a media member, obviously. I thrive on good sound bites, good quotes that you can write down, whatever. And Baron Browning hit one out of the park when he was asked about why he decided to re-sign with the Cardinals and not test the open market.
I mean, if you got a girlfriend who's a 10, why play around?
That is gold.
You know what I should have asked him, and now I'm really regretting it. I said, do you have a girlfriend, and did you say that by design? Meaning, are you is that to win points with your girlfriend?
Wait a minute, you missed that in the press conference, and then you didn't bring it up.
That was pathetic. That really was. I'm going to put myself down on the power pole of incompetence right now. Let me add that too. Okay.
All I know is that was winning behavior.
Okay.
Just that comment
That
and the pause
absolutely
and how he just goes,
Yeah.
so,
The deadpan was
perfect.
priceless.
That was well done. It was almost rehearsed. It was so good. It was.
Although you guys asked the same question in the radio booth, and he did not. He got a lot more serious.
Yeah, I honestly, okay. Are we in the trust tree right now? I would have asked.
Are we going to let
Grialou asked that question, and I would have asked it a different way.
Oh, okay.
I would have actually led the horse to water. I would have said, what was that line, Baron, you gave the media when asked why you didn't test free agency? That would actually had him restate the line because then,
if Gree had attended a quality journalism school, maybe he would have known to do that.
That's right. Exactly. I mean,
Paul, what would you have done though if he said to you, like, what line are you talking about?
That's
Then we all would have been hurt.
Well, then I would have blamed it on Cody for not having the soundbite ready to go, just like he did moments ago. There's always someone to blame, Zach. Remember,
it's the headphones. Remember, if this goes bad.
So, are you blaming the owner of Twitter, who will go unnamed, for the meltdown that happened at on the verge of?
Why? Speaking of ways you're phrasing stuff, why would you say that?
Well, I didn't really notice this on Monday all that much.
Get
it
me
didn't
all
seem.
riled up.
Did it
God
really impact
bless
you guys?
America.
Guys who live on social media and especially X, like the two of you. I mean, did it really? Was this a traumatic experience
Honestly,
when it went down?
I didn't even know it went down.
But me either.
I didn't either.
But here's what happened on Monday. Don't forget that things started warming up early, even before the 9 o'clock here, noon Eastern, when the legal tampering started, quote unquote.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, Jordan Schultz is trying to beat Ian Rappaport to the punch. Yeah.
And we had
operative word punch.
And because of the time change, like, we're all probably still sleeping when they all started tweeting stuff, all the insiders. But not a great thing. I realize how. I mean, I know I live online and I live watching all this in real time. But man, when it's down, I really have to rethink my life's priorities sometimes.
Okay.
Not winning behavior to have that go down.
All right.
No bueno.
I'm trying to.
It was hacked, by the way.
Yeah.
It was hacked.
Is this thumbs up or thumbs down when making news is, and I'm quoting now, a Cheeto shaped like the beloved Pokemon character is auctioned for nearly $88,000.
Are you a Pokemon guy, Zach?
Not at all.
Were you ever?
Not at all.
Oh,
I was.
Cody's raising his hand.
A baseball card collector
So was
growing
I.
up, which I think most people, are.
I would say most people are.
I think
but
if you were interested in sports, I would say a good chunk of people did collect cards.
I miss those days.
And
they never understood the Pokemon, but that was well after my. I think it was well after my. That would have done that.
All I know is my brother had a LeBron James card that he traded for something just bland, and he got that LeBron James card in return, and that card's worth like $3,000-$4,000.
Allegedly.
If somebody
pays.
But it's definitely not this Pokemon card.
Well, this isn't a Pokemon card. It's a Cheeto, for God's sake.
It's a Cheeto-Zard.
Somebody paid $87,840 for a freaking Cheeto.
Okay, as a guy,
not winning behavior.
As a guy who has a dog by the name of Cheeto, there's absolutely.
Would you pay $87,000 for him?
I mean, it's. You know what? If I had actually monetized my idea, which was to create the weight loss drug for dogs.
Oh, yeah, Ozempic for dogs.
I would have $88,000 in disposable income to buy
That's
a Cheeto.
fair.
So
That's fair.
That's what I think of in that one.
That would be winning behavior.
Yeah, that would be. Okay.
If you're getting the money, if you're selling the Cheeto for $87,000, God bless you, baby.
But what inspires someone to want to put up their Cheeto for sale?
Because it looks like a Pokemon.
But like, that person saw that Cheeto and goes, wow, this looks like a Pokemon. Let me put this into auction.
That person looked at a Cheeto.
That person needs to be checked.
That person looked at a Cheeto, said, it looks like a Pokemon, and oh my God, there are so many dumbass people in this world. Somebody will pay me for it. And they were right.
Reminds me of the time I wrapped up an interview with Larry Fitzgerald and shared that he had a diamond earring, the shape and size of a Cheez-It. And do you remember the square one he used to wear?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. That was a flex. All right, here's the last one here. Let's see here.
I enjoyed this one greatly. Really?
Because you're going to explain this one to me.
So this is, they call it, it's over, I think in Ireland or Britain. They refer to it as an ancient soccer game. But it's basically like hundreds of people in the streets of whatever little town you're in. You have a ball. You determine what the goals are on either side of the town. And then basically you're trying to get the ball into whatever goal, whatever team you're on.
Okay.
But there's like hundreds of people like jammed together and it's no holds barred. One of the rules literally is no murder, Paul. If you have to have a rule that says no murder,
right.
Talk about check yourself.
It's also one of the few rules that they had. Did you guys watch any videos of it?
I didn't.
I did.
It dates back to the 1600s,
yes,
so that's fantastic.
It is impressive. Everybody gets to this town. People are tailgating it. Like, they have beers and stuff of that nature.
Well, I'm thinking if you're doing this, you better get liquored up.
Well, a lot of people were liquored up for this one. But they have the person that carries the ball, like, locked arm in arm as they're walking to, like, the top of, like, this balcony. Then they toss the ball out, and then it's just an entire rugby scrum of people going at each other, trying to push them from side to side. I'm not sure, once again, going back to people who think of this to even start, I'm not sure who was like, wow, back in the 1600s, we need some action. Let's just all go attack each other.
Well, it's not like you got Twitter.
Well, that is very true.
I'm saying...
Because they have X.
I'm saying non-Cardinal, I'm putting Cam Scatterbo out there. If I had to pick a Cardinal, Darius Robinson would be somebody that I would think of. That guy is built.
This sounds like
he's tall.
Sounds like an original version of the Purge, right? The Purge soccer style. That's almost what you have there.
I'm going to call this. I'm going to call this game winning behavior, and more importantly, I'm going to call the no murder rule winning behavior.
That's good. That's good.
That's so considerate of you.
Thank you. I like to believe that not murdering people is winning behavior.
But I loved how in the one video I watched, there was this older lady. And she was just like, I just love the atmosphere. Like, it's a lot of fun. And once they drop the ball down, it's all ages of people.
How
just
close
running
did that
into the
imitation sound to your mom?
To my mom? Well, this person was British, and my mom's not British.
Well, you didn't do it in a British accent.
Well, I wasn't going to try doing it in a British
so did
accent.
it sound? Were you imitating your mom?
No.
Okay, just checking.
My mom's Russian.
Okay.
I could do a Russian accent.
Go for it.
Not happening. Paul, take it away.
Winning behavior to not winning behavior brings us to the power pole of ineptitude. And
here we go.
That's what I've been waiting for.
I'm just going to run the no huddle here.
Yeah, that's a
there's
good
some
idea.
world events. If you don't know the current events, that's on you, Zach. So I'm just going to bring these up. I'll give you a quick explanation. In the North Sea, we had a cargo ship slam into a tanker ship.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the North Sea, and they say no foul play was involved. So that means it's just sheer incompetence and ineptitude as you slammed into a tanker ship, okay, the size of a small island carrying flammable jet fuel. So there's that. The North Sea, we go to South Korea, where fighter jets accidentally dropped 8 bombs on a civilian area. I bring this up because people were only injured. 8 people were injured, 4 seriously. No one was killed. And the South Korean Air Force says that the pilot...
No murder.
The pilot entered the wrong coordinates. And you dropped 8 bombs, 500-pound bombs, on civilians during a training run. The Air Force apologized in South Korea. There's that. How about Australia? This is an international edition of the Power Poll of Ineptitude.
Wait, and also ray gun's always on it, so how is it not always international?
Well, that is
start with
that is a
Australia's
good
best.
point. No, that is true.
Ray gun's entire family's on this.
But that's our segue, by the way, because Ray Gun is still the reigning number one position holder,
be.
until knocked off. But her brother is making a late and hard charge right here, charged in a $100,000 crypto fraud scheme, money laundering in Australia. So because it can always get worse, it does for the Ray Gun family. His brother now is on money laundering charges.
Okay, just as a quick, was there anybody in football that you saw as reaching the ineptitude goal this week?
Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, who for some reason will not extend Micah Parsons. And as they wait, what happens? The edge rusher market gets reset time and again. First, Max Crosby, it gets reset. And then all of a sudden, Myles Garrett. So as you wait, for whatever reason, we have no idea, the edge rusher market is getting sent into the stratosphere.
Quick segue with the Cardinals on this. I had a mailbag question this week, and I'm not trying to be cruel, but it was suggested to me, and you can see it in the mailbag, it was suggested that the Cardinals haven't extended Trey McBride yet because they want to wait till the tight end market is settled so they can make sure he's the highest paid. And I'm like, no, that's not usually how that works.
No, typically not.
Now, I won't be surprised if he ends up being the highest paid, perhaps, but that's not. I mean, I don't.
Are there any pending free agent or any sort of contracts that are going to be redone this offseason?
I think it's been pretty much cleared up.
Right. There's no premier tight end that's about to get paid, is there?
Right now, Monty Ossenfort's kind of busy. And I know you can work on parallel tracks, but there's no rush to get Trey McBride done. So whether it happens later this month or in the beginning of OTAs or midway through training camp, you're fine.
I'm trying to think of the player, though. There was a player, was it last offseason, this offseason before Cardinals did extend and did reward handsomely, and didn't Monty purposely say, yes, I waited until after the draft because that's when I could devote full attention to that contract. And he wanted to make sure he was all in on free agency and then the draft.
And I think with this, there's no super rush. Like you said, I don't think there's any other pressing contracts out there that it would get compared to. I mean, it's not like the rush. If Trey Hendrickson gets traded, he's going to get a giant contract too.
The only other late entry, others receiving votes in the power poll of ineptitude would be 5280. Which is the elevation of Denver, which they feel the need to put on virtually everything.
I don't like that Nuggets jersey.
Stinking Nuggets jersey screams. I mean,
they have it on their court also.
Yeah, we get it. You're the Mile High City. We get it, Denver. It's there when you get off the bus for the visitors' locker room. It's on your court. It's on the jerseys.
Speaking of things I don't really like, the Mavericks floor that they had the other day when the Suns played. I know it's obviously a better quality, but on TV, it looks like something you'd see like at your local Y or at your local middle school that they turn into like the lunchroom when you're not playing basketball.
Did you see the courts that I'm pretty sure Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken, is developing where you have a surface and you're able to draw on it, and it's like a glass LED looking floor. So when
like
you're
a basketball floor?
A basketball court. So coaches are doing their designs on this tablet, and you could see it on the court.
So
it's helping.
You're practicing with it?
Yes. I know that
that would get a little confusing during the game.
That the NBA did it for one of their all-star events. They had the different colors, but it was pretty neat.
I just would like to say that bringing in free agent Zach Gershman for this episode, I think it's turned out okay.
Yep.
I mean, I think we overpaid.
I could promise you did not.
Well, again, if we're in the trust tree, I saw the other day where Google said that 25% of its code is now being written by AI. So, I did suggest maybe AI, as a replacement. But, Zach, you came in, you gave it the human touch. You went above and beyond just a computer modeling. So, yeah, well done.
Well, I will say this about computers. Josh Sweat, the reportedly the newest Cardinal, until they put pen to paper.
Right.
He actually makes computers by scratch. He buys all the pieces, and he's built over 20 computers.
Okay.
I built a Lego thing once.
I'm so proud of you.
It had
Put that
directions.
on winning behavior.
So are you saying he's a big brain like Josh Dobbs? Is that what you're saying?
So I was reading an article that was done in The Athletic, and he called himself nerdy. So we have a nerdy guy in the building.
See, now Paul's going to ask Josh Sweat if he believes in
I'm going to come up with a question. Yep, the aliens question is coming. I got to think of some good questions.
Well, now you can ask him about AI.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we'll get. Yeah, that works. Okay. Actually, I'll ask him if he can build an AI third, wheel here on Cardinals Underground.
Oh, yeah, that works.
So then,
Sorry, Danny. Happy birthday.
Yeah, when the 18 to 34 demo wants to take an entire week off for their birthday, then we have a viable alternative to plug and play. So there you go.
All I know is I'm available. So let me know.
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
But excited for Dani to return. She deserves the seat.
Yeah. And again, if anyone didn't like my efforts over here, I'm blaming it 100% on the new headphones. And that'll do it for this edition of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.